Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. On 15th April, a massive fire broke out at the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, devastating large parts of the 850-year-old church. The huge blaze ravaged the cathedral's roof and caused its spectacular Gothic spire to collapse. French firefighters, however, won the 12 hours long battle and managed to save the main structure of the 12th century cathedral, including the two bell towers. Emergency teams also managed to rescue in time valuable artwork and religious items, including what is believed to be the crown of thorns worn by Jesus before his crucifixion. The colossal fire stunned the world. International leaders voiced their sorrow and solidarity with the French people. Social media was flooded with messages as people expressed horror and sadness following news of the World Heritage Landmark being damaged. And as investigations to ascertain the cause of the inferno is underway, donations and offers of help continue to pour in. Pledges worth around 700 million euros have already been made from French billionaires and businesses to restore the Gothic masterpiece. French President Emmanuel Macron has vowed to rebuild the symbol of faith and architectural brilliance even more beautifully within 5 years. Although some experts say restoring the iconic building could take years or even decades. Today on the show, let's analyze what Notre Dame means to France, the history of the 12th century cathedral, and the damage the inferno caused to the 850-year-old priceless heritage. Notre Dame Cathedral, one of Paris's most iconic landmarks, was damaged in a massive fire on Monday. The damage was so severe that it caused its roof and its 300-foot oak spire to collapse. Officials are still uncertain about the cause of the inferno. Even though there is a lot for fire investigators still to unpack, fire experts say there are a number of explanations for why, once the fire got going, it was so difficult to contain it. To find out more about the incident, here's a detailed report.
Images that triggered shock across the world as a massive blaze engulfed one of the world's best-known structures on Monday. In just over an hour, the 850-year-old Notre Dame Cathedral was devastated by the fire that spread through the wooden attic, sending flames and huge clouds of grey smoke into the sky. The fire was fully extinguished almost 15 hours later. By then, it destroyed most of the cathedral's roof and led to the collapse of its iconic spire. Firefighters managed to save the main structure of the cathedral along with some historical artifacts. The cathedral's fame-stained glass rose windows, most of its many religious relics, and the two bell towers escaped the worst of the inferno. 2 days later, experts say the blaze was difficult to tackle, as cathedral's roof was a complex piece of carpentry with very thin and very thick columns which were all flammable. They said the thin parts ignited first, following the thicker wood that burned for a long time. People couldn't suppress their overwhelming grief at the sight of the damage.
On a sauvé à l'intérieur, je crois qu'on a sauvé la couronne d'épines, la tunique de Saint-Louis. On a pu sauver, je pense, quelques calices. Le trésor n'est pas atteint. Et puis à l'intérieur, ils ont essayé de sauver quelques tableaux, mais les grands tableaux, vous savez, pour enlever les grands tableaux, c'est impossible.
C'est un chagrin pour tout le monde, c'est un chagrin pour ceux qui sont catholiques comme moi. Et c'est quelque chose qui nous rappelle l'effondrement des Twin Towers à New York, à ceci près qu'il n'y a pas mort d'homme.
Even as officials searched for a cause of the fire, French President Emmanuel Macron pledged to rebuild the 12th century cathedral within 5 years, describing the blaze as a terrible tragedy. Companies and business tycoons have already pitched in with offers to donate $902 million to help restore the UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Nous avons tant à reconstruire. Alors oui, nous rebâtirons la cathédrale Notre-Dame plus belle encore. Et je veux que cela soit achevé d'ici 5 années. Nous le pouvons. Et là aussi, nous mobiliserons.
But despite Macron's pledge, experts say the reconstruction could take decades. 50 people will investigate the cause of the fire. Paris public prosecutors said there was no obvious indication of arson and the blaze was being treated as an accident.
L'ensemble de nos collaborateurs œuvrent et participent à l'enquête sans aucune réserve. Sans aucune réserve. Nous ne voulons plus que personne faire la lumière sur l'origine de ce drame. Tout ce que je peux vous dire pour le moment, c'est qu'au moment du départ de l'incendie,
The cathedral is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a worldwide Parisian icon, and witness to some of the most important moments in the history of France. The cathedral receives nearly 13 million visitors a year. It is home to exquisite religious artifacts, paintings, sculptures and other priceless works of art. It had been undergoing renovations after cracks began to appear in the stone, sparking fears the structure could become unstable. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The head priest of the Notre Dame Cathedral believes that it will be closed for the next 5 to 6 years following Monday's devastating fire. This is likely to impact Paris's tourism, as Notre Dame is one of the biggest tourist attractions in one of the world's biggest tourist cities. Before the fire broke out, it was open 10 or more hours a day, 7 days a week, with close to 30,000 people visiting the cathedral every day. While tour operators claim it is too soon to assess the impact of fire, the cathedral is most likely to lose a considerable number of tourists from its annual 13 million visitors. As the catastrophic fire engulfed the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris on Monday, days before Easter, the entire world is immersed in sorrow over losing the most iconic and famous landmarks in Paris. Leaders across the globe have expressed concern and solidarity with France in dealing with the grief and also rebuilding the iconic structure.
As the devastating fire raged through the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris on Monday evening, leaders across the world expressed pain and sorrow over the incident. France vowed to quickly rebuild Notre Dame Cathedral.
Nous sommes ce peuple de bâtisseurs. Nous avons tant à reconstruire. Alors oui, nous rebâtirons la cathédrale Notre-Dame plus belle encore. Et je veux que cela soit achevé d'ici 5 années. Nous le pouvons. Et là aussi, nous mobiliserons.
C'est un choc énorme que de voir un événement pareil se dérouler au début de la Semaine Sainte, mais c'est aussi un appel à la foi, à intérioriser notre foi, à sans cesse se dire que ce que nous célébrons dans cette Semaine Sainte, c'est-à-dire la mort et la résurrection du Christ, est un événement qui est un événement spirituel et qui ne se laisse pas atteindre par la destruction terrible de ces éléments matériels.
China hoped that the Notre Dame Cathedral will be successfully restored.
巴黎圣母院它不仅是法国和欧洲文明的象征，它事实上也是全人类的文化遗产，重要的文化遗产。
Pope Francis said that he was pained by devastation and said the entire Catholic Church was grateful to those who risked their lives to save the cathedral.
Colgo questa occasione per esprimere alla comunità diocesana di Parigi, a tutti i parigini e all'intero popolo francese il mio grande affetto e la mia vicinanza dopo l'incendio della cattedrale di Notre Dame.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel said She was deeply saddened to see the pictures of the fire devastating Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, which she described as a symbol of France and our European culture.
Wie viele Menschen habe auch ich gestern Abend tief betroffen die Bilder von dem Brand in Notre Dame in der Kathedrale verfolgt. Diese herrliche Kirche, das Herz von Paris, in Flammen zu sehen, hat uns ja alle tief berührt. Ich habe gestern bereits mit dem französischen Präsidenten abends Kontakt gehabt, heute Vormittag auch mit ihm telefoniert und habe ihm die Anteilnahme der Menschen in Deutschland auch übermittelt. Ich habe die große Hochachtung für die Leistung der Rettungskräfte, insbesondere der Feuerwehrleute, auch zum Ausdruck gebracht. Dadurch konnte es gelingen, wesentliche Teile von Notre Dame zu erhalten.
EU officials expressed their sympathies and solidarity towards France. In an address to the European lawmakers, EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said he will support all efforts that France would need and that both France and Europe had been wounded by the blaze.
From this place, I would like to say words of comfort and solidarity with the whole French nation in the face of the Paris tragedy. I say these words not only as the President of the European Council, but also as a citizen of Gdańsk, 90% destroyed and burned, and later rebuilt. You will also rebuild your cathedral. The burning of the Notre Dame Cathedral has again made us aware that we are bound by something more important and more profound than treaties.
Meanwhile, the US President Donald Trump expressed horror at the fire engulfing the historic Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris.
So that puts a damper on what we're about to say, to be honest, because that is beyond countries, that's beyond anything. That's a part of our growing up, it's a part of our culture, it's a part of our lives. That's a truly great cathedral. And I've been there and I've seen it, and there's no cathedral. I think I could say there's probably no cathedral in the world like it. It's a terrible scene. They think it was caused by, at this moment they don't know, but they think it was caused by renovation. And I hope that's the reason. Renovation, you know, what's that all about? But it's a terrible sight to behold.
Meanwhile, two of France's wealthiest men have pledged a total of 300 million euros to help rebuild Notre Dame after the Gothic cathedral in Paris was wrecked in a fire. Bernard Arnault, the main stakeholder of the luxury group LVMH, and Francois-Henri Pinault, chief executive of the Kering Group, have pledged to donate 200 million euros and 100 million euros respectively. Meanwhile, Japanese and South Korean governments have also offered condolences to the government and people of France.
프랑스 파리 노트르담 대성당에서 4월 15일 월요일 대형 화재가 발생하여 큰 피해가 있었던 것에 대해 정부는 매우 안타깝게 생각하며 프랑스 국민과 정부에 깊은 위로의 뜻을 전합니다.
According to the US architect, the priority is to assess and make sure of the structural stability of the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris before the start of any rebuilding efforts.
Realistic for certain parts of the building, particularly the roof. The roof structure is made of wood, it's timbers. That can be reconstructed probably even in less than 5 years. I think before anything can happen, though, they still have to make sure everything is stable and that it's safe even to go in there and start moving around the place.
The Cathedral of the Notre Dame, where a large fire broke out on Monday evening, is among the most famous landmarks in Paris. The cathedral, whose name means Our Lady, is the seat of the Archbishop of Paris. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for a short break on the program. On the other side, we talk about the history as well as the significance of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Do stay with us.
क्या हो अगर आप वोट डालने जाएं और आपको पता लगे कि आपके नाम पर पहले ही कोई और वोट डाल चुका है। ऐसी स्थिति में आप टेंडर्ड वोट डाल सकते हैं। टेंडर्ड वोट ईवीएम मशीन में नहीं दिया जाता, बल्कि इसके लिए मतदाता को बैलेट पेपर दिया जाता है। बैलेट पेपर भरने के बाद उसे लिफाफे में बंद कर संबंधित पीठासीन अधिकारी को दे दिया जाता है। चुनाव कराने की प्रक्रिया से जुड़े नियमों में धारा 49(p) के मुताबिक टेंडर्ड वोट की गिनती तब की जाती है जब जीत का अंतर इन वोट्स की गिनती से कम हो। क्या हो अगर आप वोट डालने जाएं और आपको पता लगे कि आपके नाम पर पहले ही कोई और वोट डाल चुका है। ऐसी स्थिति में आप टेंडर्ड वोट डाल सकते हैं। टेंडर्ड वोट ईवीएम मशीन में नहीं दिया जाता, बल्कि इसके लिए मतदाता को बैलेट पेपर दिया जाता है। बैलेट पेपर भरने के बाद उसे लिफाफे में बंद कर संबंधित पीठासीन अधिकारी को दे दिया जाता है। चुनाव कराने की प्रक्रिया से जुड़े नियमों में धारा 49(p) के मुताबिक टेंडर्ड वोट की गिनती तब की जाती है जब जीत का अंतर इन वोट्स की गिनती से कम हो।
Welcome back. You're watching In Depth. The 12th century Cathedral of Notre Dame is home to relics, stained glass and other works of art of incalculable value. In our next report, we take a look at the history and the significance of the leading tourist attraction, which is also the seat of the Archbishop of Paris.
The Cathedral of Notre Dame is one of the most famous landmarks in Paris that draws about 13 million visitors every year. The name of the cathedral translates to Our Lady and is the seat of the Archbishop of Paris. It was built on a small island called the Ile de la Cité in the middle of the Seine. It is said to be built on the ruins of two earlier churches that were themselves predated by a Gallo-Roman temple dedicated to Jupiter. Notre Dame Cathedral was commissioned by King Louis VII, who wanted it to be a symbol of Paris's political, economic, intellectual and cultural power at home and abroad. Construction began in 1163 and its two massive towers were finished around 1245. The building was finally completed in 1345 and its central spire was added in the 19th century. Flying buttresses were added to the design of the cathedral to hold the thin, tall, Gothic-style walls up and prevent cracks in them. The interior of the cathedral is 427 feet by 157 feet and the main structure is 211 feet high. Like all cathedrals in France, Notre Dame is the property of the state, although its operation as a religious institution is left entirely to the Roman Catholic Church. A major symbol of the Catholic faith, the cathedral contains revered relics, including the crown of thorns said to be worn by Jesus before the crucifixion that was brought to Paris by King Louis IX in the 13th century. Another iconic part of Notre Dame are the three stained glass rose windows dating back to the 13th century, which are more than 32 feet in diameter. The church's twin medieval bell towers are 69 meters high and were the tallest structures in Paris until the completion of the Eiffel Tower in 1889. The world-famous great organ that boasts 8,000 pipes dates back to the 1730s, constructed by renowned organ maker François Thierry, also belongs to the cathedral. There are also drawings, plans and engravings that showed the old and hidden mysteries of several of the church developments and how the city of Paris came into being. Notre Dame is considered one of the most sacred places not only in France but in all of Catholicism. 8 centuries after its completion, it is also still a place of worship with more than 2,000 services held there every year. Beyond its religious significance, Notre Dame was the site of many French coronations. In 1431, it saw the crowning of Henry VI, the King of England, as the King of France, and the marriage of James V, King of Scotland, to Madeleine of France in 1537. Napoleon Bonaparte was also crowned emperor in the cathedral in 1804. Joan of Arc, one of France's well-known heroines, was beatified here in 1909. The cathedral suffered damage and deterioration through the centuries. The building was damaged during the French Revolution in the 1790s, when mobs and revolutionaries looted the interior and declared the building a temple of reason. After being damaged during the French Revolution, the church was sold at auction to a building materials merchant. But the sale was annulled by Napoleon, and he ordered that the edifice be redecorated for his coronation as emperor in 1804. Notre Dame underwent major restorations by the French architects in the mid-19th century. The building survived the 1871 Commune uprising and the 2 world wars. By the 21st century, prolonged exposure to weather and decades of damage from acid rain compromised much of the cathedral's exterior stonework, and the French government spent millions of euros annually on restoration and maintenance. While undergoing renovation and restoration, the roof of Notre Dame caught fire on the evening of 15th April 2019. Burning for around 15 hours, the cathedral sustained serious damage, including the destruction of the spire and most of the roof above the stone-vaulted ceiling. The cathedral finds a mention in literature as well. Published in 1831, author Victor Hugo's The Hunchback of Notre Dame cemented the cathedral's place in popular culture. It tells the story of a beautiful gypsy girl who falls in love with a deformed bell ringer of the Notre Dame Cathedral. The book, which has since been turned into a Disney film, highlighted the poor condition the cathedral was in. This helped to prompt major restoration works in the mid-19th century. Interestingly, the book has soared to the top of France's online bestseller list after the fire that ravaged the 850-year-old Paris Cathedral. In terms of musical contributions, Notre Dame's School of Composers, a name given to a group of composers working at or near the Notre Dame Cathedral from 1160 to 1250, played a notable role in the birth of modern Western music. They are credited with leading the development of polyphonic or multi-part compositions during the 12th and the 13th centuries. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris is the latest historic building to suffer devastating damage by fire. However, it is not the first time an iconic building has gone up in flames. Museums, palaces, hotels and libraries in other parts of the world have also been destroyed due to fire damage. Here we take a look at other historical structures that were brought down by flames. In Rio de Janeiro last September, the 200-year-old Museo Nacional Museum was destroyed, along with most of its priceless collection of more than 20 million items. The museum was founded in 1818 and housed several landmark collections, including Egyptian artifacts and the oldest human fossil found in Brazil. In 1992, Windsor Castle, parts of which date back 1,000 years ago, and is one of the homes of British Queen Elizabeth, was badly damaged by a fire which destroyed 9 rooms and caused an estimated £37 million of damage. The official completion date for the restoration project was 20th November 1997, 5 years to the day after the outbreak of fire. One of Italy's most important opera houses, La Fenice in Venice, became a victim of a huge inferno which broke out during renovations in 1996. After being destroyed, it reopened in 2004. It originally opened in 1792 and staged premieres by composers like Verdi and Rossini. The venue had already been destroyed by fire in 1836 and had to be rebuilt. Another blaze hit the famous bell tower of Moscow's Novodevichy convent. a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2015. Firefighters struggled to tackle the flames in the 70-meter structure. The convent complex is noted for its famous cathedrals and its cemetery, where many of Russia's most celebrated political and cultural figures are buried. Britain and the Netherlands both lost enormous glass structures to fire. London's Crystal Palace, which staged several exhibitions, was razed to the ground in 1936. Similar damage was inflicted 7 years earlier when Amsterdam's Paleis voor Walswede was wrecked by inferno. So that's it from us in today's edition of In Depth. You can also watch our episodes online on YouTube and Twitter. And don't forget to send your feedback and suggestions about our program. We'll be back same time tomorrow with a focus on some other subject. Thank you very much for your time.